Hello, David.
Hi, Karen.
How you doing, David?
Good. I gotta do some adjustments to the TV, so I'm gonna disappear for a minute.
All right, we're good. Hey, Mike.
Kern, how we doing?
Good, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Kind of not here yet because I just finished a piece of homemade banana cream pie. I'm
Oh.
kind of in food nirvana, you know. But
Thanks a lot for letting us know.
well, you know, if I'm good, I get one after the meeting, which is
If you're good.
if I'm good. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Who's gonna say whether you're good or not?
I'm gonna make that call. Yeah.
Oh, it's your own call. Okay.
Oh yeah.
All right. Good man.
We are talking pie here, you know.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what have you been up to?
Oh, we went camping for the weekend. We just got back today. Just finished getting the camper all unloaded and everything. Back to the same old grind tomorrow. Back to work.
Oh, so were you able to take a little day off? Get a 3-day vacation in, or?
Yeah, actually took Friday off as well, so it was like a 4-day weekend type of thing.
Good. Yeah.
Actually worked out pretty good. We do that a couple times in the summertime.
Yeah, sounds cool. Yeah. So what do you have in terms of camper?
Oh, I've got a
You live-
31 foot.
Okay.
Camper. Yeah, it's pretty good size.
Yeah.
It's a house on wheels.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To be
Yeah.
real honest with you.
Yeah.
Hello.
Well,
Ray.
yeah.
Hello,
Well,
everybody.
yeah. Well, my family used to. Oh, my parents were teachers, and they in the summer we'd go camping in a little, like 5 of us in a little Apache. You know, the pop-ups.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How they did it, I don't know. You know, but it was fine for us kids, but it must have been rough. Family of 3 for 3 months in that. Yeah. Yeah.
You got through it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You survived your weekend, Kern? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm here. We made it. It was good.
You had good weather anyway.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh.
I'm jealous.
So lately, are you still sanding? Still working on that deck?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I'm hoping to have the boat primed by the end of the week, though.
Oh,
So
okay. Yeah. And you're working inside, right?
yeah,
Yeah. So you don't have to worry about days like today. Yeah. Good.
yeah. No, poor Shane had to work out in the rain, though.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
boy.
You know, we all have our days where we
Yeah.
trade the less attractive jobs for the. It's all degrees, I guess.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Josh.
Hello, Josh.
Hey, Josh.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Heck,
Uh,
what the heck is going on here?
the best 5 minutes ever right here.
It is.
Yeah,
Don't dare say a word. Josh, you getting any rain up there today?
Just in the morning. It's mostly fog now.
Yeah.
If I weren't here right now, I'd be out photographing something. I love this mist. It's so beautiful. This at dusk, everything glows.
sure, yeah.
Yeah, it's really excellent light for taking photos for sure. And
Yeah,
with the leaves too, you know,
Mhm.
that juxtaposition of the changing leaves against the fog and the darkness.
Yeah, I hope it lingers or we have more of it soon.
I'm so grateful I'm not working on a boat.
I'm sure.
To say that.
David, oh, there's David right there.
Hi, David.
Good evening, all.
good evening.
Madam Chair, in the run-up to the meeting, just heads up that we do have a number of attendees, and it might do well to remind them if they wish to speak on any item, how to do that.
Yep.
Either the chat or the raise hand or.
Yep. Town office clock fast.
Got a minute.
It's that easy.
Amazing.
Just like that.
What would we do without our digital devices, huh?
Oh, God, yeah.
Well, welcome everyone to the Lincolnville Selectmen's meeting. It is the 28th of September. Just a reminder to everyone that we are still operating under the state of emergency as declared by the governor, and therefore we are meeting remotely, subject to the Maine Freedom of Access Act, and as such, all motions made by the board will be done by roll call, including adjournment. And for those folks attending the meeting remotely, we welcome and encourage your participation. We do ask that you use the methods of posing a question through the chat bar, which you can find at the bottom of your screen, or raising your hand, and David Kinney, our town administrator, will handle the traffic control. And before we get going for the evening, Kern, would you care to read the quote?
Be glad to. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started and know the place for the first time. T.S. Eliot.
Thank you very much. And the first agenda item we have before us right now is a listening session. And before we embark on that listening session, I just wanted to raise the topic that we became aware of. We were made aware of that, unfortunately, this meeting is taking place on a high holy holiday, Yom Kippur, and unfortunately, we have some folks that couldn't attend, and we really are grateful for that being brought to our attention, and we apologize for any inconvenience that would mean in terms of participating, and we are certainly going to take that into our awareness next year for both holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, so that we won't have any conflicts next year. But that being said, this listening session is not just a one-time event. We are absolutely open, and this will be a continuing process. So for anyone who is unable to participate tonight, we welcome and continue to welcome any sort of feedback or thoughts anyone of the public have regarding our future public park. So that being said, and as a reminder to everyone, the purpose of this listening session is so that we, the Board of Selectmen, can hear suggestions, concerns, anything relevant to the acquisition and commencement of a park in the town of Lincolnville, and that our goal is to create a successful project for everyone, and that this isn't an opportunity to debate the merits of the project, or for the board to engage in any sort of debate. We really just want to be here and be receptive to anything that the public wishes to share with us. So that being said, David, I guess we can begin the process. And I understand too that a number of pieces of correspondence have kind of trickled in after the board got their packet. And so we will distribute that to the board with the next packet, correct?
Yes, we had 5 or 6 different emails arrive with everything from just a couple of sentences to a couple pages in length that we'll certainly distribute to the board when we, as we continue through the process. Or if you want to know who they're from, or you want me to read a dozen pages, I'd be happy to do so.
What's the board's pleasure?
Reading a dozen pages might take a while.
Yeah, I think if they were forwarded to us, David, before our next meeting, I'm good with that. We're obviously going to have some input here, and we can probably add that all together so that we can all see that at once.
That's fine with me.
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's certain, this is not a one-shot deal. So, so I think having information on a rolling basis is great. We can continue to digest it.
Right, so there are a number of people that are tuned in, which looks like there's a varying amounts of, or varying different agenda items on the list. So nobody thus far has indicated a strong desire to speak or a desire to speak. Is just as a reminder for anybody that's tuning in, you have the ability, there should be a control bar across the bottom of your screen that has a chat button. If you hit that, you should be able to type in a quick message that says, I'd like to address the board, or whatever you want to say. Or there's also a raise hand feature that if you hit, I can see, and then I can bring those over or not. Any volunteers to be first? There's somebody on the chat. Hang on a second. Dan Leary has asked a question, and it's Christine. Dan's alias. And do you want to have me bring them over individually, or do you want me to read the chat and then make a decision, or what's the board's pleasure on that?
I feel like it's a fairly straightforward question. So if you want to read their question, and then I'm going to put it right back in your lap, David, if you want to just give a synopsis of our process.
Sure. The question is, hi, David and group. Can you please share the overall process that will take place between the July vote and the culmination of the formal swap? It's Christine Leary. Well, the vote in July was approved by a wide margin, 770 yes to 87 no, authorizing the selectmen to change the property that the town owns along the Duck Trap River for a property that's owned currently by Coastal Mountains Land Trust. It's near, but not, well, it's near the Northport Lincolnville town line along Route 1. The process moving forward, we're having discussions with Coastal Mountains about the deed descriptions currently and the conservation easement. The property that Coastal Mountains owns has a conservation easement on it, has for a number of years. And that was written back when NB&A owned the property, and is really geared towards corporate ownership versus public ownership. So Coastal Mountains is looking to clean that easement language up. And as you can well imagine, when easements and properties are in the works to be exchanged or transferred, there are lawyers involved. And so there's been a little bit of going back and forth with the language so that we know that it is legally sufficient when it comes back to the selectmen for their review and approval, and when it goes to the board of directors at Coastal Mountains Land Trust for their approval. So that's kind of where we are. I would anticipate that time frame somewhere around calendar year end if everything continues down the path it's going. Obviously, the selectmen ideally would have been that we'd had some of these discussions about operations and how we're going to maintain the park earlier on in the process, but COVID-19 has thrown a wrench in all our works, and we can't just kick the can forever. So that's why the hope was that we get going this evening with a listening session, and then slowly but surely we'll be developing an operations plan certainly in time to have discussions for next year's budget. And we'll be looking to on the budget end of it to have department heads typically submit their budget by year end, so that in early February we're starting the review process with the board of selectmen and then onto the budget committee. So really, probably if things kind of fell into shape or into place, year end would be kind of the time frame we'd be looking for property transfer. That hit it, Christine? No.
David Ames has his hand up.
David, you're muted.
I'll have to stop doing that. Shall I bring Mr. Ames over?
Sure.
Sure.
Let's see, I'm gonna get him up here first. Maybe. Should be on his way over to the,
It's right there.
It looks like, David, we're just waiting for you to unmute and join the video if you choose.
Okay. Hi.
Hello.
Kurt.
Hi, David.
First of all, I think I've expressed some concerns to David by an email, and then I saw Kern a couple of weeks ago when he was mowing on my grandparents' original property that Point Lookout did own at one time and just sold it. But my concerns, when Point Lookout owned it, they had signage down there, end of Point Lookout beach access, but people don't pay attention to signs. They came over and used my picnic tables, used my chairs, which upset me a little bit, but didn't totally, get me going. But when they came over one day and I was mowing, happened to be mowing down there, and noticed one of my kayaks, which was up in the field on a rack. They had to come up into my field. They took one of my kayaks, used it, and then left it down below high tide mark. And so I went and met with Point Lookout. When I saw the description of the park, it said small stone beach. Well, that's not a small stone beach. It's really an unswimmable beach because it's very, very rocky. And I mentioned to David that what people do is they come down over there and turn left and go to the closest sand beach. And I observed that firsthand one day. I was out mackerel fishing right in front, and a family of three, a mother and wife and a child, came down over the bank with their chairs and immediately turned left and walked right over to the sand beach and plunked down, which is 50 to 75 yards away. And I believe actually is in Northport. And the only other thing I wanted to mention is the fact that, we need to realize that in Maine, or in our property anyway, ownership is to low tide mark. And, we have people constantly walking over there. I mean, sometimes there were 25 or 30 people down there on the beach when Point Lookout had it. And I just think that signage really needs to be very adequate. And people need to realize that the sand beaches are not part of the park. And so that's my biggest concern. So.
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Thanks.
where'd he go?
Do we have anyone else that wishes to address the board?
Dan Leary, or maybe it's Christine now. I'm gonna log them. Hang on.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep, we can hear you.
I don't really need to be seen, I guess. I just have another kind of general question, but I'll start my video. Okay, as David mentioned, there's been, a significant amount of input about the park from a lot of different aspects. I know that ours included traffic concerns about the dangerous intersection, maintain the park hours the park would be open, beach access, as Dave said. I think we had about 5 or 6 kind of overall categories. So it's a lot of data, and other people that are right here that kind of see, we live right on the edge of the park, proposed park. So my question is simply, once you all do have the opportunity to look through all of the input that you've gotten, and maybe you'll get some more, what can we expect after you've kind of digested all that and maybe gotten together and looked at it as a group in terms of getting back together so that everybody's things have been heard and we can kind of have a different discussion where you guys are on the same page and can address the, you know, the different issues. That's it.
So is your question that, are we going to have another public listening feedback session before the opening?
Well, sort of. I think it's just once all of those questions and all of that information, you guys have had a chance to look at it, whatever forum would make sense for you guys to come back to the community and say, all right, yeah, we looked at this, it's not an issue. This is what we think we'll do with this one. Yes, it is a dangerous intersection. Here's what we're gonna do, and those kinds of things, so that, you know, our questions and concerns have more of a direct, specific answer to them than just what we can do today with the listening session.
Certainly. I mean, the short answer is that we're going to, as with any subject that we address as a board, you know, we'll want to take in all of the vested parties, you know, and the affected parties and the neighbors. And, you know, we believe strongly in the good neighbor standard, and do our best to filter that through the onerous process of creating policy and potentially ordinance to address those and hopefully adequately manage them. And of course, you know, any aspect of managing a municipality is an ever evolving process. So I hope we get as close to perfection as we can, but knowing that there are probably going to be some stumbling blocks that we will inevitably trip over, and, you know, and just being willing to continue to listen and address issues. So the long and the short of it is a lot of listening, vetting through our legal process, and then creating policy to hopefully address what we're able to address.
And please forgive me if this is a question that everyone else understands, but as this process moves forward and what Dave was describing with the coastal mountain and the easements and the lawyers and all the looking and all that, is there any point along the way when some of this information gets figured out that kind of stuff comes back, or is that not a community effort? That's straight to the select board to make decisions. And let's say the budget comes to be twice what we swagged out when we first saw the property or whatever. Does that come back to a voter? Just how does it work? It's just, that's just a question for dummies out here, but just trying to understand how it moves forward and what level of community involvement, if any, other than the listening, is done. I just don't know.
No, it's an excellent question. David, you want to give a bullet points of the process?
I'll try. As after we've internally started a running list of things that we have to address. And obviously from the emails we received and comments we've received tonight, we're going to add to that list to try to be as all-encompassing as we possibly can be with the items of concern or of interest. And then we'll have to, we being primarily the Board of Selectmen, will have to develop each and every item. Let's take, for example, the gate. There's a gate there at the site, and right now it's locked, and Coastal Mountains allows access to people to do maintenance or others to go by. They've let us in there before, and the board is going to have to determine whether or not, and don't run away when I say this, if the gate's going to be torn down and just, unfettered access, or if the gate's going to be managed, and if so, what are the options for managing the gate in terms of who's going to lock it, who's going to unlock it, what happens if you go to lock the gate at 7 p.m. and there's a car in there and there's nobody in sight? What do you do? And how does that person, if they come back because they were picked up by a friend to go to the mall or something, how do they get out? So all of these things, whether it be the gate, lights, restrooms, any of those things, they get listed out. Options for discussion will have to come back to the board so that they can decide, at least in the early blush, this is what we wish to do. And then that goes back to staff to figure out, okay, what does that cost and how would that be accomplished, or what are the options for accomplishing it? And then back to the board again. So all of these discussions will go on, and eventually, hopefully, we'll get to actually have a meeting once again all together versus trying to do this over Zoom. But all of those things have to get fleshed out by the board, setting the policy so we know how to price that in terms of operations. And then in turn, that all goes back to the board in the budget in early February, gets reviewed by the selectmen. They decide whether or not that's what they want to recommend on to the budget committee. The budget committee will go through a similar yet somewhat different process in terms of review. And then ultimately all of that goes to the townspeople to decide whether or not that dollar or cents is something they wish to fund. And if they choose to do something different, whether that be more money or less, then the selectmen will implement that financial policy, which drives all their other decisions. So you're looking at a series of meetings between now and the end of the year, maybe not every week on the selectmen's agenda, but certainly periodically between now and year end, of the list and some guidance on, I've heard everything about parking and trash and dogs and horses and people on the beach and all of these things about how those are going to be addressed or chosen not to address, get worked out. But the first thing we're trying to do is to get as close to 100% of the list as we possibly can, so that it can be as a complete, for lack of a better word, operations plan as possible.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I think it bears stating the obvious too, that all of those, our process is a public process, and we effort to be as inclusive as we can at every stage.
Okay, thank you very much. You can zap me away.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
David, it looks like we've got a couple of chats.
Let me, as Christine said, zap her away. I'll move her back to 10D. And let's see.
Saw a thing there from Alex Cohn.
Yeah, I think he
Had a question.
raised his hand just before Kelly did.
Yeah.
Alex does say he has a question. And then Kelly. So shall we do Alex first, since that was?
Yeah.
Okay. Slide him over. Okay, there he is. Looks like one of those interviews on 60 Minutes where they blacken out your face. There you go.
There we go.
There he is.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, Alex.
Hi, everybody. I just sort of wanted to gauge, just sort of ask a general question just about the board's vision for the property, just in general terms. Like, I don't, there's lots of logistical things, but like, does the board think it's a town park, like a main park, or like a park for anybody on Route 1, wherever they might be cruising up and down the coast?
Well, to answer your first question, this is just the first step in we being basically the managers of, the representatives of the people of Lincolnville. I would say we don't yet have a definitive vision that we could share with you. This listening session is part of that becoming our plan. And the second short answer to the second part of your question is it would be a town public facility, in the way that any of our other public facilities are. Does that answer your question?
I mean that, the town owning it, yes, it's a town property, but I guess just from a logistical, practical standpoint, the town owns it, they operate it, but it's obviously open to anybody. And so I just want to sort of make that distinction, I guess, because, I know there are communities that have town parks that are for town residents. There are some, like there could be a lake and it's sort of like townspeople have access, and it's not like for other people because it's in the town, right? And it's sort of specialized for the town. I'm just sort of talking out loud a little bit, but being on Route 1, knowing what Lincolnville Beach looks like in the summertime, I just, there's a lot of demand, and it's just, already people are using the park, because they know about it. People are parking and sort of using it, even though it's not even sort of official. So I just, given where it is, it's on Route 1. It's gonna, in my opinion, it's gonna attract obviously a lot more people than just local folks. Not that that's a bad thing, but I'm just sort of stating the obvious. I think it's on a main corridor between Bar Harbor and, Southern Maine. And I mean, it could get a lot of activity. And we know that Point Lookout got activity, even when it was like a private sort of enterprise with only people supposedly at Point Lookout staying there. Everybody would go down there. So, I just see the potential of, a lot of use. And so I guess part of that is what would be the vision of the board for like that use? Are we talking like, is it, are we talking 100 cars? Are we talking 50 cars? I think there's that potential. So I just think that should be, part of knowing whether you want the property is sort of knowing what that potential use would be on some level.
I'm just curious, since we've got you in the hot seat, what are your thoughts on that?
We don't have a lot of waterfront access in the state. It's obviously that's an issue. That's why Lincolnville Beach is crammed. That's why Howe Point has a line of cars up there on a nice day. So that's why McGonagall Lake doesn't have enough parking for trailers right now. They're parked all the way up towards Maiden's Cliff. And, so more and more people are using the outdoors and recreating, and not a bad thing. I guess it's just, I can see a change happening for the people that are mostly affected, who are the neighbors, of course, who the folks that are used to things being a certain way. And, and it can, there can be a whole lot of other positive and negative consequences, probably people that don't live nearby probably won't really be affected, of course. Just like if you go to Lincolnville Beach, you swim, you play on the beach and have a good time. Go to Howe Point, do the same, do some fishing, some beach combing or whatever. You're out of there. So I'm just, obviously it's going to affect us neighbors more than anybody else. So we're going to be more sensitive, and it'll change the complexity the complexion of that area. I mean, who knows? Maybe a handful of people will hang out there. Who knows? Maybe it won't, be the little blip on the screen, but I don't think so. And it's just something, I'm a little worried about. And I think David Ames's, question just sort of about, beach access is a complicated, it's a complicated question. I know we're not going to get into deep weeds about overnight use and fires and trash and fireworks and music and whatever, but can someone just pull up a beach chair, and hang out for the day, in front of my house where I'm typically the only one hanging out there, so it's just a question. And I think it's sort of, not that I want to prevent anybody from enjoying the beach and the water and access, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with someone putting a beach chair in front of my house and hanging out, listening to music, smoking cigarettes, and doing whatever, even if they're just sitting there sunbathing. I'm not sure, but, I don't know. I don't know what the board's vision of are people coming down? What are they doing? Are they walking to Howe Point? Are they walking up, past Point Lookout? What are they doing? Or are they just in a little slice of town land?
Thank you for that. No, all of this, there's no invalid thoughts, feelings, concerns. This is exactly what we're here to receive, so that we have your knowledge and experience. David, I would love to tag you just to talk about responsibilities regarding access or prohibition of access, and some of the things that we will be, Alex, just to touch back on that, certainly that we will be working through, and the implications and the repercussions of any aspect of that.
Yeah. I will say that one of the comments that we received by email that the board will be receiving was a suggestion that perhaps it be a community members only and park with a fee associated with that. I know that you can, or you might be able to via ordinance, limit access. Currently, I know that there are other communities in the state of Maine that have community parks only. I happen to know that because I went through a community 2 summers ago and was looking for a spot to cool off on a hot summer day, and they had for lack of a better word, a resident only park, and right next door to a public stop and come and use it if you dare type spot, which I did. And it was interesting. They had a area cordoned off for public parking, and then another area cordoned off for residents only. They also had an attendant there all the time when the park was open. So that's certainly something, if the board and the community wishes to look into, we certainly could. Otherwise, it would lend itself, if it was unmanned or unstaffed, to public access, not unlike Lincolnville Beach. But not to say it'll be Lincolnville Beach, but that's the way it is. Breezemere Park is the same way. We have challenges there with parking and dogs and trash and wastewater at times, and we manage it. We have a blank slate where the board can choose a direction for approval by the people when it comes to dollars and cents to go with that. So did I talk around that one enough? I don't know if I helped or muddied the waters any, but certainly it's going to have to be a discussion that the board's going to have about managing the park on a day-to-day basis and a seasonal basis. There's Doesn't necessarily have to be open 365 days a year. There have to be a process to get through all of the concerns, because as you know, the parking lot right now is not delineated. So if you pay attention, you probably can get a dozen cars in there without too much trouble. But if first person parks in there in a funny direction, you're down to, 6 or 8 or 10 cars. So there's issues yet to be managed for sure.
David, can I ask a Zoom related question?
Sure.
Is the chat feature archived so that we're not?
Yes.
Okay, great.
We're
Perfect.
supposed to be.
I just want to make sure that when we go back and review this conversation, that we're not missing anyone that's putting forth a question.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. I don't know as I've ever gone back and actually looked, but.
Okay. And
I'll screenshot it at the end just in case.
Great, thanks, Josh.
The backup.
Alex, are you still there?
Yep.
I feel like what you're getting is a lot of sort of clear as mud answers or questions back, but we're really still in the infancy of this planning stage, and so it's most important to us to hear any and all feedback that will help inform us as the policy makers.
I understand, I know we're in the beginning stages. So I just want to be part of the conversation. And, I think there is potential to have a good scene, but there's also the potential for a not so good scene. So, but sometimes it's hard to totally figure it out before you jump in and do it. But it's, it will be different, I think, for the abutters, obviously. No matter whether it's perfectly developed or not, it's going to be, it's going to be a different vibe. So.
Can I ask you a quick question just about the previous usage? Were you, how did you feel impacted when Point Lookout was doing their events down there? I'm just curious, not that it's the same conversation, but I don't have a sense of the impact of the traffic.
I bought the house knowing, of course, about the conservation easement, and I knew, as I understood it, it was, it was a plus for me that there was a conservation easement on the abutting property, because nothing could be built effectively. It is a undevelopable green space, right? So, and at that point, MBNA really wasn't doing much over there. And I didn't see, there was very limited activity because, of course, the primary utility part of their property was the sand beach area, which they've since sold. So most people would use that area, and so few of them would sort of go south towards where I am. And then when there were occasionally weddings, but we were notified for the most part, but it was infrequent. So it really wasn't a big deal from my standpoint. And they were courteous and would call us and let us know. There were occasionally fireworks. They'd call us, let us know, as a function of one of those wedding events or whatever. So, typical sort of thing. We knew it was MBNA or Point Lookout or whatever. And, they had a business to run on some level, and we had to sort of, they were trying to be good neighbors, and we weren't fussy people about it. We sort of, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that.
Yep. I'll let someone else ask a question. I have other questions, but I'll just sort of, I'll see what else folks say.
Sure, and also feel free to follow up with an email.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks. Yep.
There was a chat from Kelly Hart. Says, hi, all, this Kelly Hart from 2804 Atlantic Highway. Emailed Dave Kinney and Coastal Mountain Trust. Just wanted to make certain. Oops, keep getting that cut off. I'll make certain that those. Great. Anybody else see the rest of that?
I just want to make certain that those concerns by those expressed by my parents have all been carefully considered. Will they be discussed at this meeting?
We certainly have an email. I received some questions and comments earlier from Kelly, and you had a 2-page email from Mary Lynn Hart, which I received, and I acknowledge the receipt of that today. And I really don't think we're going to be necessarily open answering all these questions tonight, but they're certainly on the list of things to address as we move forward.
I think we must have, David, I think we must have touched on what she was getting at because she followed up with a got it, thank you.
Okay.
And then it looks like Greta has a suggestion.
A suggestion to develop a way for Lincolnville residents to submit written form concerns, ideas, and policy considerations reference the park that both the public and the select board can see and consider, perhaps on the town's website. Well, we certainly have, and the soliciting input via email or snail mail, or dropped off here at the town office, all preferable to telephone, because I don't want to lose anything in translation. The email address is info@town.lincolnville.me.us, which was really quick. So call us and we'll give that to you. Certainly any and all information that we have is available to the public. And whatever else the board wants to do in terms of getting the word out, but probably a global list of items for the benefit of all, to make sure that we haven't excluded any thought or idea would be an excellent list.
Yep. And then Heather Moran asks a question. She agrees with Alex and then asks a question about liability.
Someone gets hurt coming across the beach, and that's supposed to be, what's the liability? Don't know. It's a good question.
I feel like that, amongst others, will be certainly one that we're going to be discussing with our legal counsel.
One idea, just as an aside, once we've received all of the public comments, we could make a big PDF and put that on the website, so people could just download that and read through them.
Sure. Then it looks like Jenny McManus had a suggestion.
Yeah, we have limited rules regarding Howe Point, primarily because that was as a town park, but it's leased from the state of Maine. So we have certain things that we can and cannot do there. My understanding is that that land was acquired by the state of Maine with public boat access money. So there are limitations in terms of public access to that location, and things that we can't do even if we wanted to. But it's certainly there in Breezemere Park. and Lincolnville Beach are our 3 primary public access points and public parks, and as well as like the ball fields. So it's going to be a melding of, that helps with the checklist of things that we have to address, as well as the input we receive here. But the rules and regulations can be different for each location depending on what the community and the board wishes. Right now, we have had some comments and concerns about fireworks. By our consumer fireworks ordinance, fireworks are prohibited from public parks currently. So if we don't make any other rule or regulation or change the ordinance regarding that, then that's going to apply at this location as well. So there's a lot of our current ordinances that may have been applicable when they were adopted, 5 years ago for fireworks or however long ago, or dogs or domestic animals, I should say, versus dogs. All of those things are going to have to be looked at, and if the policy for this location is going to be different than some of our other ordinances, we may need to go back and change it or seek to change those ordinances as well. So but certainly we're going to borrow on the experience that we've had at our locations. We've also reached out to some other communities that operate parks to see if they have some documents that we can borrow from or use as models, or at least maybe some templates as well to help formulate our discussions as we go forward.
It looks like David Ames still has his hand raised. Is that
Let
from?
me see if I can bring him back.
David, are you there?
Click on again. Yeah.
Hi.
One thing I just want to add that complicates your problems is Point Lookout did such a terrible job of monitoring their facility when they owned it. And probably 50% of the users were not Point Lookout people. And most likely a lot of them weren't even Lincolnville or Northport residents. They were people that happened to find out there was a beach there that nobody monitored. And I met with Point Lookout and they said, we know we've got a problem and we're starting to issue passes. Well, what good are passes if nobody's there to check to see if somebody has passes? So that's complicate your problem even more, because there's a lot of people out there that have got used to using that beach area and are going to find a way to get there one way or the other. And it's unfortunate that, that it started like that and continued. So it's just a problem that's it's going to have to be dealt with. And people are like animals. They get in habits and they continue to do them, and they'll find a way to do what they want to do. So that's all I wanted to add. Yep.
Thank you for that thought. Comment, additional problem to consider. Let's see, do we have anyone else who's watching this evening that wishes to jump on or jump in at this point and offer your thoughts or concerns? We can give it a couple more minutes, and I'll just reiterate, if anyone's just joining us and weren't here for my initial preamble, that this is in no way the end of this conversation. This is only just the beginning. And so our virtual door is open to anyone that wishes to offer their thoughts or concerns or suggestions or goals, desires. We definitely don't want to just focus on the negatives of the problems that may occur, but also the opportunities. So, we welcome any thoughts and suggestions that may occur going forward. So it doesn't look like anyone who is tuned in right now is jumping up and down to participate. What's the board's thoughts?
I think we can close the hearing, the session.
Not a hearing, but yes.
Not a hearing, listening session.
Listening session. And, so our virtual doors are open. We look forward to continuing to hear from everyone. So thank you all who participated. Your feedback is very valuable. And we acknowledge that it is weird and awkward to jump on a Zoom call like this. And so thank you for getting out of your comfort zone and doing so. So David, we have two public hearings, and the board and anyone listening, we have two public hearings that we need to commence. Would you care to give a little preamble to the first?
Sure. The winter road closings is really something that's reserved for town meeting to decide. In Lincolnville, traditionally, that has been delegated to the Board of Selectmen to consider. Again, traditionally, the town has closed a portion of the Martin Corner Road to winter maintenance. In other words, we do not plow it, sand it, traverse it, and we post it as the road is closed. Primarily because it's be very challenging to get through, even if we tried to plow it. So the authority for that is delegated to the Board of Selectmen. You cannot do that without having a public hearing. And that's what has been put forth for tonight. The other road is that is new or different this year is a portion of the Morton Road. We were contacted by a property owner that would really like to pursue possibly discontinuing a portion of the Morton Road from, in essence, his property line or shortly thereafter into the farm, which is at the end of the current road, which we've been maintaining for ever or a long time. The property owner is in the process of constructing a turnaround that he hopes that we might be able to use at some point in the future. We don't yet have the legal right to do that. So I probably would encourage the board after hearing not to close that portion of the road for this year and for us to continue. So unless you've got some questions, I think you jump into the public portion and see if anybody out there wants to contribute to that.
Yeah, let's save any questions or deliberations for post the hearing. So at this point, I will entertain a motion.
I move to open a public hearing concerning the winter road closing of Martin Corner Road and the Morton Road pursuant to Title 23, Section 2953.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Well, yes to Martin Corner Road. And
This is just a public hearing only.
go into public. Yes,
Yeah.
my answer is yes.
Okay. Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The public hearing is now open. We welcome any input from the public on the road closing. David, do we have anyone that wishes to speak on this?
I'm looking for a hand or don't see any of that. And I don't see any in the chat. So I would say probably not.
Okay. Seeing that we have no public to hear from on this topic, I will entertain a motion.
I move to close the public hearing concerning the possible winter road closing of the Martin Corner and Morton Roads.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. Now the board can deliberate. So Kern, I think you had a comment, concern, question.
Yes, and David says it in the next paragraph here in our packet papers there. Until the property owner has followed through with everything that needs to be done, we cannot, in my opinion, cannot close that road for winter maintenance. A lot of liability there, people living up in there. We can't do that.
Yep, correct. Any other thoughts from the board on this? If there's no additional thoughts, I'll entertain a final motion in this on this topic.
I move that following a public hearing pursuant to Title 23 MRSA, Section 29532, and due deliberation, it is the opinion of the municipal officers of the town of Lincolnville that the Martin Corner Road from 171 Martin Corner Road to its end at the Moody Mountain Road is so located with reference to population, use, and travel therein that it is unnecessary to keep it maintained and open for travel during the months of November, December, January, February, March, and April.
I'll second that.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you all very much. And we have a second public hearing that we need to open, and therefore I will entertain a motion.
Move to open a public hearing concerning general assistance ordinance included appendices A through H.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The public hearing is now open. We welcome any comments, questions, or concerns from the public.
Kayla, hey.
I invited Kayla to attend because she's the GA administrator for the town. And just for the benefit of anybody listening at home, the town is obligated to have a general assistance program from the state. We have to have an ordinance that governs how that is applied so that we can seek reimbursement from the state. Traditionally or typically, we get new maximums on an annual basis about this time of year that sets forth maximums for food and for rent and heating fuel and various and sundry other things. This year, we're also have the general assistance ordinance, which was updated and suggested that we update ours as well. So here we are.
Any comments from the public?
Isabella wrote, "Hi Dave, I am here. Not sure if you can see that or not. Thanks."
She's
Iffy.
coming up on agenda item number 9.
Yep, and I see you, Ibby.
I don't think we're seeing any members of the public that wish to discuss general assistance ordinance. Does Kayla wish to say anything?
No, every year we get an audit from the state to make sure that we are doing our general assistance correctly. And last year and this year, we've done everything properly. They just suggested that we update to the most updated ordinance. So that's why I suggested that we do it, and then we'll get 100% from them.
Excellent. Well, if there's no further comment, thanks, Kaylin. Hi. If there's no public comment on this, I'll entertain a motion to close.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The hearing is closed, and now the board can deliberate. Does the board have any questions, comments, concerns, further comments on this topic? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that the board adopt the August 2020 General Assistance Ordinance as prepared by the Maine Municipal Association, along with appendices A through H with an effective date of October 1st, 2020.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you all very much. And with all of that public comment, we still have yet now before us, we have the citizens forum for any non-agenda items. So if there are any members of the public that wish to address the board on any subject not contained in our agenda or discussed thus far, please raise your hand or wave or chat or any of the electronic. Or David, has anyone written in ahead of time as we suggest for citizens forum?
No.
Okay, let's move beyond to the administrator's report, please.
Almost too fast for me. Just to let everybody know, today was the first day that nomination papers for the vacancy on the Board of Selectmen were available. We had 2 individuals that took out nomination papers, Jason Trundy and Jordan Barnett Parker. Those are due back by no later than 5 p.m. on Thursday, November 5th. Here at the town office. If anybody out there in viewer world needs more information, please contact us here. Absentee ballots, we're still accepting applications for absentee ballots. Those are provided to us by the state of Maine. By the next time we have this meeting, we will have received our ballots and mailed out the first batch to those that have requested it. Once those arrive, if you wish to come in and obtain an absentee ballot, you certainly can do so. They'll need to be returned by 8 p.m. on election day, if not earlier. Certainly earlier works out better for staff, but voters are entitled to have that until 8 p.m. on election day and return to us then. Also, if you have any voter registration questions or concerns, or you need to do it, please do so earlier rather than later. We're going to be very busy with elections, to say the least, between now and November 3rd, when the election is actually conducted, and then the reporting period thereafter. So anything that anybody can do earlier at the town office in terms of voter registration or car registration or any of that stuff, the better. And the last thing I have beyond the agenda is just a reminder to everyone that your first half property taxes are due by Wednesday, October 7th. We will start charging interest the next day. So that's a week from this Wednesday. Again, maybe not for the person paying, but the earlier the better.
Thank you very much. Any questions for David on the administrator's report? Okay, let's move along to upcoming meetings and announcements.
The planning board is scheduled to meet Wednesday, September 30th at 7 p.m. That's a remote meeting. Login information is available on the town's website. The broadband committee is scheduled to meet on Thursday, October 8th, 7 p.m. That too is a remote meeting, and information will be available on the website how to log into that meeting. And the Board of Selectmen is scheduled to meet next on Tuesday, October 13th, 6 p.m.
Thank you very much. Are there any upcoming community events anyone wishes to share? Seeing nothing, let's move along to the meeting minutes from the 21st.
I move the board approve the September 21st, 2020 meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. I would like to. It's a real minor thing, but still on line 93, O'Brien stated the request was what ownership be transferred? Is that supposed to be that was that ownership be transferred? So would you care to amend your motion and second that amended motion?
Yes, I do. I
Okay,
do.
And I do.
okay. Thank you very much. Amended and moved and seconded by Late and Ray. Is there any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, the motion passes. Thank you all very much. And we have before us a different iteration of a proposal we've had before us the last couple of years. And I understand that Monroe and Goodwin Inc. is now owned by, has new ownership.
Yes, the float portion of their business, I believe. Shall I bring over Isabella or Ibby so she can explain their request, or? you want
Please.
me- All right. Hang on, Ibby. Most working, which
Are you with us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yep, we
welcome.
can hear you.
Welcome.
Great, thank you. So my husband and I bought the float portion of Monroe and Goodwin, as well as the property across the street from Boggs Bridge. And we're hoping to continue to be able to store the floats from Norton's Pond at Breezemere Park. And so I understand that every year we have to come before you guys and ask that we can do that. And then talk about the time frame as to when you guys would like us to have the floor, when we need to have the floats back in Norton's Pond by, and the cost of it. So that's what we're here to discuss.
Questions for Ibby?
Yeah, I have a few. First, Ibby, I don't know if you turned yourself off, but we can't see you anymore.
I
hope you
didn't
can
do
hear
it.
me.
I can hear you, yes.
Very
Yep.
good. Okay, great. Well, this is Mike here. And there's three things, and I don't know, they may be covered in the lease agreement language already, but I can't tell. One is, there's a nature trail there. And I hope the floats don't block access to that trail or egress or. And secondly, there's the Lakes and Ponds Committee spent a lot of time getting rid of Phragmites, an invasive plant in that area. I'm hoping that by moving the floats, we don't spread the Phragmites out into the pond. And lastly, when we put the floats away, or no, when you take the floats, pick them up and put them back in the water, I'm assuming that we're not going to leave any plastic behind, unencapsulated styrofoam, that type of thing.
Yep. No, sorry, something's going on here, starting my.
There you are.
No encapsulated, I mean, no, nothing should be left behind. I don't believe it was this year. We bought the business in April. To my knowledge, nothing was left behind when we put them in this year. If it was, I apologize. I was unaware of that. And a lot of our customers are switching over to the encapsulated billets, the plastic ones, with the styrofoam inside of it, because per Camden's ordinance, it has to.
Uh-huh.
So since a large majority of our customers are Camden, we are encouraging them to do that. And so a lot of people from Lincolnville are doing that too. So I think that will help with any of the styrofoam being left behind. I know the town of Lincolnville has not adopted that ordinance yet, but even so, a lot of our customers are still switching over, so. And as far as the nature trail, I'm honestly unaware of where that is, but if it's been there for years and it hasn't been a problem, I wouldn't foresee it being a problem. And as long as we're aware of it, then we will make sure that nothing gets blocked off.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and Mike, contained within the agreement, there's a fairly clear definition of where the floats need to be contained
Yeah,
to.
yeah, I saw that. I just wasn't able to make it out on the map, and
Yep, and we do have one gentleman who was with them for 20 years is still with us. Another guy has been with them 4 years. His father was with them for years before. So we have kept the same crew. The only people we've added is my husband and myself. So they're aware of the process.
okay. Thank you. That's it for me. Thanks.
Yeah, Karen.
Yeah, last year, once the floats were staged in the parking area there, for lack of a better way to say it, the floats were extremely close to that nature trail. If I'm not mistaken, that also is part of a snowmobile trail. I know it's very, very close bringing a snowmobile out through there. The other thing is I have a concern with, there was no signage there, kids all over the floats, climbing up over, down over, pulling on ladders, things of that nature. I think there's a certain amount of liability there that needs to be addressed with some signage and this and that. The other thing for winter recreation, I have a concern that we have reduced our ability to park cars there to unload snowmobiles and ice shacks and things of that nature. Myself, I've got 3, and I had to bring my vehicle home and park it at home because I couldn't park there with 3 other trucks and trailers in there. So we've reduced our footprint there to make a minimal amount of money, I guess. And I'm a little concerned that people aren't doing anything in our town because of that. Just my concern.
Yeah, I can understand that. I don't know if there's a way that we could put the floats in a different, I mean, obviously we can put them farther away from the nature trail. I mean, my husband's snowmobiles, we would never want to like block any of that off, of course. I don't know if there's a way that we could put them differently so that the vehicles can park differently with the trailers. I know it's a small area in general there. So I'm not really sure, what we
Yeah, well, with the floats there, it's not deep. It's just you park as you drive down in there, you can't back in, you pull in. So if you put 2
Right.
side by side and then 2 behind that, you're either blocking the trail off or you don't park there. One of the,
Right.
that's with the floats there. So it's just a concern that I have. It was functional. But I wonder if more floats are added, I'm wondering if we're going to be able to do this in my mind. You know what I mean?
We did make a conscious choice. Excuse me. The town floats are stored in there as well, the ones that we use there at Breezemere Park. The boat club's been there by a courtesy agreement with this Board of Selectmen from a long time ago with their stuff. And then we've been leasing this obviously for, I think it's been 3 or 4 years with Monroe and Goodwin. And we made a conscious choice to put them all furthest away from Norton Pond Road as we could, so that their stuff wasn't in front of or prohibited us from launching the town floats in the spring or the boat club floats or vice versa. And I will say it was narrow in between last year, the access to the snowmobile trail or the trail that goes through, and actually had a positive comment that it kept people at a reasonable speed through there. But
Makes sense.
how narrow or how wide path do you want or need? So it's always, as usual, a balancing act.
All right. And Kern, if you want to meet with Toby, he can meet you over there and you guys can talk about the space there just to make sure that nothing gets blocked and that it's,
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm good. I'm good. It's just things that I noticed from the previous year. Just
Right.
bringing it forward, that's all. I know there'll be markers over there for that trail, and as long
Okay.
as we can keep that trail open, and if we can have as much parking as we can over there. I don't know. Do you have the same, Ibby? Do you have the same number of floats that Monroe and Goodwin had, or have you added to that?
We have added to that. So far on Norton's, I'll just speak of Norton's Pond, but so far on Norton's Pond, one customer is going to be pulling theirs up onto there. We've lost one customer, and gained one customer. So at this point, it's still the same numbers that they had on Norton's Pond. I'm waiting to hear from one customer as to whether her husband's going to try to do it himself or we're going to do it. So that could be less, I can't guarantee we're not going to get more. I mean, obviously we're accepting, we'd love to get new customers. But I didn't realize that there was this issue as well. So, that's something to think about.
Do you have a number? How many floats?
I don't, just on Norton's Pond, I'm sorry, I don't have a number. I can get that to you and I can email that to you guys. I don't have that right now.
Just wondering. And the other question is, will you be stacking them?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I might recommend that we consider requesting them to have some type of signage for, liability purposes.
Yep.
Because I just hate to see kids climbing all over them, and they do.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, Kern, would you care to make a motion including that contingency?
Sure. Let's see here. I move to authorize the town administrator to sign an agreement on behalf of the town that allows the use of town-owned property for float storage by Lake City Floats on essentially the same terms as last year, to include liability signage and proper setback spacing.
So moved.
Second.
Who wants it?
Give it to Josh.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there further discussion?
I do have one other thing. We put a temporary stay on the amount that was charged last year, and agreed that we would revisit it this year. Just want to bring that to the table and see what the board wants to do with that.
I think we should go up to at least 700.
I think it was 600 last year.
That's what the agreement that I have from last year says 600.
Yeah, and I think that was the original amount, wasn't it? Like 4 years ago, or has
I
that?
think so.
Yeah, it hadn't changed. Do you wish to amend the motion to include that new change?
I do wish to amend that motion to include the increase in fee.
And Selectman Garrettson, you wish to second that?
I second that.
Excellent. Further discussion from the board? Okay, if there's no further discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. And congratulations on your new business, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you. So I just have a couple of questions. So that was raised to 700, is that correct?
Correct.
That's right.
And then we will be providing the signs.
Correct.
Okay. And at some point, it would be helpful to meet with somebody so that we can know exactly where, with Dave. Okay, great. So I can get in touch with you, Dave, so we know exactly where the lines are, where the floats need to go.
Yep. Yep.
And
David will be your follow-up point. Yep.
Okay, great. And I was reading through this and I didn't see, I know that I believe it's the Thursday before Memorial Day is when you guys want them gone from there. Is there a time frame in terms of when we can start putting them there?
After we receive payment and you've signed the lease and provided the insurance information.
Okay, perfect. All right, well, I'll be in touch with you, Dave, then.
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abby.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And now, at the board's last meeting, we had a presentation from representatives of the Lincolnville Historical Society that they had interest in acquiring the town-owned property at 33 Beach Road. Given the fact that the board had not yet had a conversation about doing anything with the property, we put it on this agenda. And so now I will open the floor to any members of the board to offer their thoughts on this. And I don't know, David, if you wish to give a brief preamble, but we do have several options available to us. And so if the board has any questions, comments, concerns, directions it would like to take, let's have that conversation.
Well, I don't know. Are there any people from the LIA, LHS here who can answer a question? Because the question,
Diane O'Brien is logged in and Rosie is,
Okay,
and there
great.
are other members of the LIA I see on the list, but I don't know if they want to talk.
yeah, well,
Well,
okay, well,
But Selectman Ray, I just want to make it clear that I want to keep this at a board level discussion
Okay.
right now because it's the voters of Lincolnville have empowered us, the select board, to pick a direction that we wish to go in. And so peeling it back from who the party might have been, let's pretend that it was an anonymous party. We are now tasked with, do we wish to do something or do we wish to do nothing? And if we wish to do something or nothing, what are the options and consequences therein before we get into the individual who may be interested?
right. Yeah, I understand that. The question that I had, and maybe it's not appropriate, I would like to ask if there's going to be any documentation coming from the LIA or LHS regarding what they propose to do with the property.
Well, again, I feel like that's a little further down the road in
Okay.
terms of the conversation because the board has yet to decide what it wishes to do with the property.
Okay,
Well, I guess I'll start by saying that option G, sell the property to the Lincolnville Historical Society or other entity, is something I'm open to. I would need to see a written proposal on specifically how they would make the building structurally sound. That is my chief concern, that it's structurally sound. If in terms of fixing the roof or the windows, I'm less concerned about that. Having said that, I am also concerned of just to make sure that all the historical materials in there stay, dry and safe. So addressing the roof and other issues, I hope would happen in the future. But at the very least, if I saw a written plan for dealing with the structure, I'd be happy.
Kern, your thoughts? Mike, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree that option G is the way I would like to see this board go. Although I want to make sure that the LIA group is good with this process. I also want to protect, much like Josh, which I think everybody want to protect the historical artifacts or whatever is in the building that the town has. I'd like to see a plan as to going forward, what the plan is, when is it going to be made safe, and what's the plan going forward to maintain everything.
Sure. Okay. And Mike, what are your thoughts?
well, I'm kind of torn. I too want to certainly protect the historical aspects and all the artifacts there. But at the same time, it seems as if correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know a lot of the backstory here, not being new to the board. But it seems as if what the warrant article said was that the voters said, we have an asset here, whatever that property is worth, I don't know what. And we're trusting you folks, the select board, to make a decision about selling it or not, or disposing of it in some way. And it seems to me that we should consider if we can get any money for that, basically. So for that reason, I tend to think, I kind of lean towards what looks like option F here, which is to seek interested parties, and I assume the LIA, LHS would be one, and seek their proposals, their plans. What we do with them is something entirely in the future. We're not committed to what we do with them. But I think we have to honor the voters who said, hey, is there any way we can make any money out of this? To put it crassly.
No, you bring up an excellent point, and I see that we had a question from a viewer of what the options are, and so I'll just run down quickly. We have the option of doing nothing. Of course, doing nothing is not nothing. There would be a whole host of obligations that the board would have. We would be empowered to list the property for sale with a real estate agent, and then the process that would go along with that. We could sell the property ourselves, and the entire process that would go along with that. We could auction the property, and that process. We could sell the property via sealed bid. We could solicit proposals from parties interested in purchasing the property, or we could basically take the first offer in the door from the Historical Society, and then the process that would go along with that. And so thus far, the board isn't having a dissimilar conversation. You know, I think Selectman Ray, your suggestion in fact does encapsulate the offer that we've already essentially received from the Historical Society.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And certainly encourages perhaps a little bit more robust of a conversation. Curious, Selectman Late and Selectman Garrettson, what your thoughts are there.
Well, myself, I was thinking that's what we were going to get from the Historical Society, is their intentions and a timeline. That's which is essentially what F is, I believe.
Yep. And Josh, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any harm in seeking proposals from other interested parties if they're out there. I mean, we can still look through and make the best decision, but that doesn't, just because we open it to other parties doesn't mean we have to go with them.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I don't disagree with anything that's been said thus far. Certainly, I feel that regardless of what we ultimately do with the property, we have two vested parties in that property, being the Historical Society and the LIA, that not only represent organizations of real cultural importance to the town, but without putting words in their mouth, I would imagine that the value of the building to them goes without saying. So before we act on anything, we, regardless whether we gift, sell, what have you, the property, we have to remain aware of and address the lease before the sale. So I'm just going to throw out there for the board's consideration that perhaps we enter into another, at our next agenda, perhaps we have an executive session to discuss what our legal options are and perhaps invite any vested parties in order to have a conversation that might otherwise compromise any future contracts or negotiations. And then work on developing a motion that we can make to move forward. What are the board's thoughts on that?
I think that's a good idea.
I think that's a
Sure.
very good idea.
Okay. David, is that clear? Do you need a motion?
I don't think I need a motion. Just want to know if you would like for us to try to prepare a draft request for proposals between now and the next meeting, or wait till after you've concluded the next meeting to make sure that's really the direction you want to go.
What's the board's leanings? I mean, I feel like the trend that I'm hearing is that we're leaning more towards F regardless with the proposal aspect.
Well, having a draft in your back pocket never hurts. And so having something already written up, but only as a draft, it would seem to save time and maybe clarify some discussion in the future. I don't know.
Okay. Kern, Josh, your thoughts?
Well, myself, having a fair amount of commitment to the Historical Society, I know we've gotten a verbal commitment. I want to move this process along if we can. And I really, with that commitment that I have for them, we haven't, was a proposal, that type of thing. The other thing is the commitment to the taxpayers. So I'm looking to get the property moved to the right people, in my mind, would be the Historical Society. I'm also looking to protect the taxpayers of the town of Lincolnville for any liability, which there is some liability there. So things need to move along. That's F, I guess, is the way to go.
Thanks for that, Kern. David, does that answer your question?
We'll get on it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much for that conversation. And next on our agenda, we have, it is now our code. Yes.
Somebody did submit an additional chat while you were talking about that. I don't know if you were, oh no, that was an old one, sorry.
Yep, I did see that she wanted to know what the options were and then what do we want to see in a proposal. And I think Kern, you just, I think did a fairly good job of addressing that. We have to address the lease, but the leaseholders will also have to be part of that conversation. But addressing the safety issues and then our duties to the taxpayers at large. And yeah, so.
All right, it's hard to do 4 things at once here.
That's okay. This Zoom thing is deceptively simple on the outside and yet not. You're doing a great job, David. Okay, so it is our code enforcement officer's turn for a department head update. And I understand he is waiting the wings.
He should be on his way over. Let's see, where did he go?
Cool.
Frank, undo your mic and turn your camera on. Hopefully he's still with us. Says he is. He's here in voice only right now.
Hello, Frank. How are you?
He's muted.
Muted himself.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
There we go.
there
We
you
can hear you
are.
fine.
we got you.
Okay,
Welcome.
thank you. Good evening, Select Board members.
Hello,
I'd
Frank.
like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for the invitation to address you tonight. First of all, I want to thank you for the excellent new planning board members you approved. They've shown that they have the skills to serve the town of Lincolnville in the professional manner that's required, and they've really already have been an excellent value add. They're some of the best members we've had for quite a while coming on. Now, this year has been the most incredible year that I've experienced in my 21 years in code enforcement, plumbing, health, and addressing activities. There has been such an extremely high energy in the air. In spite of the pandemic, citizens are building in such numbers that if you try to hire a contractor now, you're going to find it's a very serious challenge. As a matter of fact, if you are able to get a contractor, you may want to second guess why you're hiring this particular person. The contractors are even hard pressed to find required tradesmen and women to do the work for them. And even as this is occurring, the price of 2x4s has gone up to $8 a piece. OSB plywood has gone from $32 to $34 a piece. The price of trusses has literally gone up thousands of dollars. As you travel, you'll probably see barns or garages that are being built, and you wonder why they haven't put the tops on. There's a shortage of trusses, and the price has gone sky high, and most of them are coming out of Canada now. If you start to see the roof braces being done the old-fashioned way, you start seeing the sides of the barns and garages being done using planking instead of sheetrock, rather plywood. That's what's happening. And also the pandemic has added a great difficulty in communicating with the DEP, the Department of Environmental Protection, and NERPA, the Natural Resource Protection Act people. Most of those people are functioning from home, and it seems to be adding a great deal of difficulty in communicating with them. And some of the examples of activities that are going on now, as you probably all know, the Searsmont Road solar project that has been approved. I've had phone calls and inquiries about the potential of another solar farm taking place in Lincolnville. We've had a subdivision upgrade. We have a good deal of shoreland cabins that are being rebuilt. And Black Horse Inn is going through an amendment to make that an event center. And so the phone calls are coming in left and right in reference to real estate agents, attorneys, and everything else. Even small businesses calling in to see the viability come into the town. So in a nutshell, that's the picture that you see that's happening in the town, in my areas I'm involved in. Now, I was going to give you a 1 hour update on floodplain management and shoreline zoning, but
Perfect.
Dave suggested I may want to hold it off. If you change your mind, I'm glad to do it right now.
No, it's all right.
So,
We'll call you.
Yeah.
if you want to vote on it, I'll wait.
Okay.
Anyway, if there are no questions, that is all I have to offer at this point in time. If you do have questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Frank?
No.
No, thank you very much, Frank, for that synopsis. It's both encouraging on one hand that there's a buzz of activity, and I'm sure you bear the brunt of a certain amount of frustrations with the status of things out there in the bigger world.
Well, thank you, but we have a very, excuse me, a very well-organized crew in the town of Lincolnville. Everyone works cohesively, and it's really a great place to work for.
That's great to hear. Well, thank you so much for popping in and for that update, and we'll touch base with you next time.
I look forward to it. Have a great night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Hey,
Bye
Frank.
now. Good night.
Okay, and moving along,
Thank you, Frank.
sorry. We moved along to this agenda reviewing the draft charge for the broadband committee, given that it has expired. And also we had a rather robust discussion on the scope of work before the broadband committee. And since the select board approved doing the direct mailing and the broadband committee had a meeting, Josh, I'd love to put this in your lap and talk about what your thoughts are for scope and deadlines.
Sure. So we had a extensive conversation about on the broadband committee about when would be a good timeline for us to issue the report. And we thought November 23rd, that would give us enough time to collect data and digest it and issue a report. That's a select board night, 23rd. And the paper mailer, I basically had to redo the whole thing from scratch to make it fit on a page and a half. And so I'll be sending that to David tomorrow, and hopefully we'll get that out as soon as possible.
Okay. Have you had any additional respondents electronically?
Yes, it actually went out through I forget the name of the system, through the text messaging system for the Lincolnville Central School to all the parents.
Perfect.
Which is great. And as of right now, let's see, we currently have 257 respondents.
Okay.
So,
A little bit.
little bump up.
So I'd love to entertain any thoughts from the board. Josh, any additional thoughts on any other changes to the charge other than deadline for completing the work and making the recommendation to the board?
I don't think so. I don't think we had any changes that we thought were necessary to the charge, simply that extension.
Okay, thanks, Josh. Kern, thoughts?
When did that go out at the school, Josh? Or when were you able to target the parents or guardians or whatever at the school?
When did that text go out?
Yeah, when did that go out?
Hold on 1 second. A member of the committee forwarded the email to me since he's a parent. Let's see, that went out Friday, the 25th at 10:30 a.m.
Okay, so that's fairly new. So
Swift reach, yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get a significant more responsive for that. That's good. That's great.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Kern? Okay.
No.
Mike, your thoughts?
I don't have any thoughts. I don't think we need to change the charge at all. No, I think a report will be coming in. I think we may find that point number 8 in the charge, coordinating education and outreach, will receive shorter shrift because we haven't identified the options available to the board. And so we don't know what to educate exactly, and what direction to go in outreach. So I wouldn't expect a whole heck of a lot on that number.
Well, hopefully the rest of the report could help inform a further conversation about that.
That's the idea, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I would love to entertain a motion including the updated deadline that Josh proposed.
Well, I'll do it. I move that we amend the broadband committee charge to extend the deadline for the report to November 23rd, 2020.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. I would just point out that we would need to also amend the disbandment, given that it still states June 30th, 2020.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So would you care to amend that?
Sure. Let's see, I guess I'll just add 20 days to it. Let me see. June 10th, June 30th. And I would also amend my motion to amend the disbandment of the broadband committee to, I'm just gonna, hold on, sorry.
December 14th would be around-ish 20 days.
Great, okay. December 14th, 2020.
I'll second that one as well. The
Okay.
amendment.
Is that
Okay.
Sorry.
clear, David? Is there any further discussion from the board? Okay, seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
And the best of luck to the broadband committee in getting that report together. I look forward to reading it. David, did you have any lack of clarity on that particular subject? You're muted, I think.
Ah,
Round two. That was very clear and concise.
Okay, excellent. Great. Thank you very much. And then also I asked to have on this agenda, seeing as how we had some interest on a request to be on the qualified mooring inspector list. It seemed wise that we as a board have a conversation about what makes a qualified mooring inspector. And perhaps seeking some additional clarity there in both what defines a qualified mooring inspector and what a qualified mooring inspection is. So I would love to throw to the board that we make a motion to charge the Harbor Committee with assisting us and the Harbor Master in addressing that issue.
You want me to say that all over again, or can I say so moved?
I want you to say it all over again.
You
Come
can do
on.
it.
You can do it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Come on.
I want to see how it's done. Yeah.
I lost it. I don't know. I move that that this board charge the Harbor Committee with supplying the Board of Selectmen with supporting documentation to define what the criteria would be for proper credentials for mooring inspection individual.
I like
Second.
that. Yeah.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Selectman Late, sorry to run you through the ringer, but would you amend your motion to include and what a qualified mooring inspection is also?
I need to amend that to include what a qualified mooring inspection is.
And I'll second that.
I like.
Okay, amended by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any further discussion?
Nope.
Seeing no further discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Thank you very much. David, did you have any thoughts or input on this particular subject?
In which capacity?
You can choose.
As harbor master, I welcome anyone's input as to what a qualified mooring inspector is or should be, or what qualifications they should have. Because by the Friday, second Friday in November, I have to have that to the board. So that's coming right up, and thus far, organizing the harbor committee has not been completely successful into having a meeting. But working on it still, and as town administrator, Whatever makes your job easier, makes my job easier, so I'm all good with that.
Okay. Any additional thoughts from the board?
No.
I mean, certainly, we have a reasonably comprehensive ordinance. However, I think if you review it, there are some gaps, and perhaps this conversation that is hopefully forthcoming between ourselves, the Harbor Committee, and the Harbor Master will address some of those gaps in information. So thank you all very much for that. Moving along in our agenda, in order to act on our next agenda item, I will need a motion, please.
I move that we suspend our meeting as the Board of Selectmen and that we convene as the Board of Assessors.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Ray, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. We are now convened as the Board of Assessors. David, do you wish to give a brief
Sure.
preamble?
There are two things for consideration. One is an abatement, where inadvertently or unknown to us quite how it happened, the homestead exemption was removed from one account. This would restore that exemption, and it's in the tax amount of $361.90, which is what everyone received when the homestead was applied. I'm gonna do these separately, shouldn't we?
Yeah, indeed. All right, I will entertain a motion, please.
I
move-
move would grant abatement number 2020-04 to Cedar Home LLC to Andrews Brewing Company.
Oops, that's a typo.
There's a
Yeah.
double there.
Oh, I see.
Cut and paste.
I move that the board grant abatement number 2020-04 to Cedar Home LLC in the tax amount of $361.90 to correct an error in the record regarding the homestead exemption.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Ray. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes,
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes, and we have the supplemental tax warrant.
Yeah, the supplemental tax warrant is, will assign the taxes for a property that the town conveyed back to Edward and Doris Moran. Unfortunately, when we did that, it got changed in our records, but we didn't uncheck the checkbox and we kept it as exempt property, which is not exempt property anymore because it's not owned by the municipality or a qualified nonprofit, and this will tax them in the amount of $400.40.
I will entertain a motion, please.
I move that the board approve and sign the supplemental tax warrant regarding account number 318 owned by Edward and Doris Moran in the tax amount of $400.40.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Ray, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
yes,
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what is your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. Motion passes. Thank you all very much. And in order to proceed, I need a final motion as Board of Assessors.
I
Okay,
move
well,
that we adjourn our meeting as the Board of Assessors and reconvene as the Board of Selectmen.
second,
Moved by Selectman Garrettson, seconded by Selectman Late. Do we have any discussion? Seeing no discussion. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
yes,
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what is your vote?
yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. We are now reconvened as the Board of Selectmen. So next before us, we need to have a brief discussion regarding a USDA intergovernmental review request from the Searsmont Road Solar Project. David, would you brief us on that?
Sure. The folks that were developing the Searsmont Road, the solar project, which is a 4 megawatt ground mounted unit that would be up from Lincolnville Center on the Searsmont Road, received planning board approval in August. And it appears that the developers of that project are seeking at least partial funding from the USDA Rural Development, and they have what's called an intergovernmental review request for loans. And they highlighted 8 areas that they wanted to know if we had any comments we wish to submit regarding that proposal. This first one of these I've seen here in 17 years, but a couple of these are direct on point issues, such as consistency with state and local government planning goals. We may not be able to address the state planning goals, which strongly rely on solar, but certainly it meets our planning process, was approved after being extensively reviewed. We have some goals in our comprehensive plan that sets forth about natural and human resource goals and community economic development, which we can address. We can certainly talk about coastal zone and the Coastal Barrier Resource Protection Act in terms of Lincolnville too. It's outside of those, and whether or not the project displaces people or businesses. It is on a site that will not displace any people or business. So we can address some of those. We can choose to, in essence, ignore this, and they will move forward after 30 days. But seems like it was a project that was supported by the community, supported obviously by the landowner, and it complies with our ordinances and seems to comply with the comprehensive plan that just truly ought to write some sort of response. But I didn't want to do that without your knowledge and consent.
Yeah, makes sense that we would respond. Thoughts?
No, I agree. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Excellent. I'll entertain a motion then.
Okay, so I move that the board authorize the town administrator to respond on behalf of the town to the USDA intergovernmental review request for the Searsmont Road Lincolnville Solar Project.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Ray, seconded by Selectman Late. Is there any additional discussion? Seeing none. Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. The motion passes. Thank you, David, for doing that on our behalf. And does anyone have an update for us? Selectman Late, do you have an update for us?
I do not. Obviously, the Midco Solid Waste Board of Directors reached out to me. The chair reached out to me, canceled last month's meeting due to the untimely passing of our friend David Barrows. They moved a few other meetings to do the same. I do have a meeting coming up this Wednesday, governance committee meeting, which I'll report back to everyone on the next meeting. And also we will have a regularly scheduled Midco Solid Waste Board of Directors meeting coming up in October, probably third or fourth week in the month. So as of right now, I've got nothing.
Okay, thank you for that. Josh, what do you have for us?
So in addition to talking about the deadline in our broadband committee meeting, we also invited someone who is heavily involved with the Down East Broadband Utility to come and chat with us and tell us about that experience. The Down East Broadband Utility is a cooperative between Baileyville and Calais, where they formed this interlocal agreement and laid down dark fiber across both towns. Not funded by taxpayers, but the bond was guaranteed by the taxpayers, and had very good things to say about their system and how that's working. And at our next broadband committee meeting, we invited a member of the Belfast Broadband Committee who I think has a lot of insight that he can share with us. So just learning more and more about all the different ways towns and cities in Maine have worked on increasing broadband access.
Okay, interesting. Selectman Ray, do you have an update for us?
I'm afraid that I do not. Sorry.
And I also have nothing to share. So thank you all for that. And let's move along. We have treasurers and payroll warrants to approve and sign.
Move that the board approve the treasurers and payroll warrants.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Late, seconded by Selectman Garrettson. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
And Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. And make sure to swing by the town office or coordinate with David to get your signature on those warrants, please. And return your packets. And is there any additional business the board wishes to discuss? Yes, David.
I just wanted to get a reminder out there. One of the things, non-agenda items, was Maine Municipal Association's virtual convention, which is coming out right up. If anybody wishes to attend, I have one selectman that's advised me that he would like to. If anybody else would, just reach out to me so we can get you signed up and in their system.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I also just, in non-agenda, I just want to thank the Lakes and Ponds Committee. I always enjoy reading the minutes from our various committees. It's always great to be able to catch up on the various business that our committees are doing for the town. So thank you for that. So if there's no further business, I will entertain a final motion.
Lately, I've got one thing. It's just a question for David. I'm not
Oh,
sure if he would have this or not, but I was wondering if the problem with the solar situation as it relates to our fire department, has that been taken care of, or
Regarding their pump, right?
Yeah, is that?
Yes.
It has been.
We have not put in the buck boost transformer, but the electrician has done some work and it's not going to pose the challenge it did before.
Okay. So we do still need to do something then.
There's a debate internal between fire department and electrician and myself as to whether or not it needs to be done or not.
Okay, maybe we should have a conversation on a sidebar about that.
Off agenda.
Off agenda.
Selectman Late. You're off territory here. Would anyone care to make a final motion?
I move that we adjourn. So does Josh.
Second.
Moved by Selectman Ray, who seconded it? Selectman Garrettson seconded. Any further discussion?
I just want to thank the town of Islesboro and the Waldo County Commissioners for sending us expressions of sympathy in regards to losing David Barrows. So we appreciate that very much.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So if there's no further discussion, Selectman Late, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Garrettson, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Ray, what's your vote?
Yes.
Selectman Dunn, my vote is yes. And congratulations to the 3 people who stayed on, or two. All right. We're adjourned. Thank you everyone for your participation.